Greetings, all! Today, we will be examining the exceptionally rare grass poison-type Pokemon Bulbasaur, its equally rare evolution Ivysaur, and its also equally rare final evolution Venusaur, collectively known as the Seed Pokémon. While they might make the heads of biologists a bit confused with their mix of animal and plant traits, the members of the Bulbasaur family are powerful creatures that can make great companions for starting trainers and help them to start off on the right foot if journeying off to become a Pokemon master. Bulbasaur have short, squat green bodies with a thick hide and walk around on 4 short legs with 3 small white claws each. Their head is fairly large, with small ears, bright red eyes, and a large mouth with a few small teeth visible, and the body is covered with a series of dark green spots over their entire form. Their back is dominated by the presence of a large green plant bulb, which serves as their primary source of power at a young age and the source for most of their main offenses. Their evolved form, Ivysaur, have the same general body form, but with larger ears with black insides, a larger main body trunk, and thicker, sturdier legs, and their small teeth now being more visible as prominent canines that jut out of their upper jaw even when their mouth is closed. The bulb on their back has sprouted into a large pink flower bulb with 4 large frilled leaves that extend from its base outwards, serving as a useful identifier of their presence. Their final evolution, Venusaur, once again share the same basic body form, but have a red interior to their ears and are much larger and bulkier than ever, having so much burden on their back that they are forced to move in a hopping manner similar to that of a frog to get around rapidly. This burden comes in the form of the plant that is on their back, which now has bloomed into a massive pink flower with a thick, brown, bark-like stem, a yellow center with a crown-like fringe and a central uplift in the case of females, and a series of 6 massive pink petals with whitish spots, the bottom still containing a series of 4 fringed leaves at the base that help to give the flower a magnificent appearance as a whole. It is additionally noted that Venusaur have the ability to Mega Evolve, and when they do so, they become much larger in size as the central flower grows immensely, with an additional 2 fronds growing on the sides of their upper back, with 3 more fringed leaves each, and an extra pair of vines that drape between the 3 stems. Mega Venusaur also have a second pink flower of smaller size that blooms from their forehead, and as a whole, are much bulkier in form and more than capable of taking a great deal of punishment. The members of the Bulbasaur family have confused many in trying to classify them as either plant or animal, but in truth, the answer to the question is that they are both. It is unknown exactly when the relationship started, but the members of this family are actually bonded with a parasitic plant from before they are born, the seed being implanted into developing embryos before the shell of their egg is fully solidified and formed. As such, when these creatures are first born and hatched from their eggs, this special plant will be ingrained into their body and most of their biological systems, being a permanent fixture of their form for their entire life. On the one hand, this plant does help them out at a young age by serving as a storage unit for energy and is thus a benefit. However, this plant is parasitic for a reason, for as soon as it starts to work towards maturity, the plant will integrate itself further into the host and begin to take over most of its systems in order to benefit itself, making the plant the dominant force behind the behavior of these creatures as they evolve towards adulthood. While it has been speculated as to why this relationship exists in the first place, it is still not exactly known how the two came together originally and why the relationship has remained for so long. But in all likelihood, it is probably tied to the powerful offenses and techniques that the plant offers to these creatures, as the plant helps to form the core of most of their powerful moves and a lot of their status-inflicting techniques, such as Leech Seed and Sleep Powder. In addition, the toxins that the plant creates make these creatures a poor choice to feast on, as it runs through their bloodstream while they themselves have grown immune to their own toxins, making for a deceptively powerful combination that can make these beasts tricky to handle with the right investment. Moreover, these creatures are heavily in tune with the natural powers of the plant, so much so that their base ability is the rare Overgrow ability, while those that are able to absorb a great deal of sunlight and use it to power their movement speeds more effectively than normal can have Chlorophyll as a hidden ability. Not to be outdone, the larger, thicker forms of Mega Venusaur are stuffed with a large amount of fat within their tissues to act as a weighty support, which in turn makes their bodies less susceptible to the effects of extreme temperatures by offering a temperature buffer, granting them the thick fat ability. As far as their stats are concerned, in the case of Venusaur, these brutes contain a great deal of power and mobility in their form despite the cumbersome weight on their back, and while the physical attributes might not be incredibly great, with the base attack and defense stats being below average for a fully evolved grass-type Pokemon, and the base attack stat also being below average for a fully evolved poison-type Pokemon alone, these are the only places where they show great weakness. Every other stat of theirs is above average for a fully evolved Pokemon of both of their types, and they are especially gifted when it comes to their special stats, being able to make good use of their plant's natural powers to blast away the competition with powerful moves like Solar Beam. This can make these beasts quite hard to put down, and definitely a threat worth fearing in a fight, especially since they can still hit hard with moves like Takedown and Double Edge to show that their plant isn't the only part of them that should be feared. At a young age, the plant on the backs of Bulbasaur isn't that active and mainly serves as a storage vessel for energy, so Bulbasaur are able to move quite freely and even run with the bulb on their back and are not hindered in any way in terms of mobility. At this stage of development, the bulb is packed with seeds that will ultimately be spread by Bulbasaur as they reach adulthood, but until then, the bulb constantly absorbs sunlight and uses the energy gathered to help it photosynthesize, and in the process, the developing plant often shares some of the energy with its host, which helps out these creatures immensely as they are usually not strong enough to hunt for the first few months of their life, helping to supply them with the power they need to supplement and complete their otherwise scarce diet, sometimes being able to go for days without eating a single bit of food. In addition, the plant grants these creatures early access to the leech seed technique, which further makes it possible for them to not have to readily feed, and as a whole, makes the lives of these critters fairly carefree and happy. While this massive bulb can make them a fairly large target for other Pokemon looking to feed on the nectar inside of it, and becomes even larger with time as the bulb grows in size alongside its host over time as it soaks up the sun's rays, Bulbasaur are usually able to defend themselves quite well, and rarely ever have problems with others, even if they are caught napping in the sunlight. It is further noted that the seeds in the bulb do change form over time, for if Bulbasaur are kept long beyond the normal point of evolution, the outer casings will harden, allowing them to learn the Seed Bomb attack, an interesting move for them that is inaccessible to their evolved forms and is thus potentially of some use in the right circumstances. When Bulbasaur reach a certain point in their development, a change occurs that causes the bulb on their back to suddenly open and reveal a massive flower bulb from inside, and the sudden increase in weight makes it very difficult for these Pokemon to move around. To counter this, triggers a reaction in their cells that causes their body to grow rapidly in time with the sprouting bulb, increasing their size and physical strength, and in turn facilitating their evolution into Ivysaur. It is at this stage in their life that the parasitic plant starts to really show its true colors, for the sheer size of the plant makes it so these creatures can no longer run or stand on the hind legs anymore, keeping them permanently grounded, and it starts to take more control over their form, driving them to seek out sunlight in order to fuel the developing flower and the seeds still contained inside. On the one hand, this does mean that they have less control over their own lives, and thus are having their will bent to the plant's own to some degree. But there is a trade-off, for the larger form of the flower and the addition of leaves allow these creatures to absorb massive quantities of sunlight and then release it as a concentrated burst of thermal energy, allowing these monsters to learn the Solar Beam attack in place of the Seed Bomb attack that would otherwise be learned by Bulbasaur, which is a great benefit to them as it is the only grass-type special attack they learn naturally in this state. Lastly, it is noted that it is fairly easy to tell when the flower is about to bloom, for after absorbing enough nutrients from their host and sunlight over time, the petals will open up slightly and allow a sweet-smelling fragrance to leave the bulb, a scent that is powerful enough to awaken their host internally as soon as they smell it, causing a chain reaction that triggers a period of rapid growth as they finally mature and evolve into their adult form, Venusaur. When these creatures finally reach full maturity and evolve into Venusaur, the blooming flower on their back takes over even more of their biological systems and forces these creatures to spend extremely long periods of time just laying still and basking in the sun's rays in order to get the energy the plant needs to sustain itself, being their strongest in the summertime. But this is not all bad, as it becomes an incredibly effective storage vessel for solar energy in the process, making these creatures incredibly dangerous and in possession of one of the strongest Solar Beam attacks learned naturally by any Pokemon. Their offensive powers are not limited to solar power, however, as the blooming flower is able to use itself as a weapon more so as well, granting these creatures immediate access to the Petal Dance attack as soon as they evolve, and even later, the Petal Blizzard attack. Plus, it doubles as a health indicator of the duo, as those that get plenty of nutrients and sunlight have a more vivid color to them. This can make these monstrous critters a surprising threat in battle, even if their actual movement speeds might be hindered by the plant, and in turn, not something worth approaching without the right type of armor and equipment to handle. At the same time, however, this plant is a real trickster and is able to use its own anatomy to help the host it's attached to defeat opponents or otherwise de-escalate potential threats to its life. This plant constantly emits an attractive, sweet-smelling aroma from its form that is often stronger after a rainstorm, as it can linger in the air longer, and has the effect of calming those that smell it, which serves two purposes. On the one hand, it makes it easier for Venusaur to handle threats by lulling them into a false sense of security and thus causing them to drop their guard, allowing Venusaur to take advantage of it to strike back. At the same time, it can also be used to help calm enraged Pokemon that might be a serious threat to these Pokemon and the plant, in turn keeping the plant from being harmed. This is crucial for these creatures, as the plant is so heavily ingrained in their bodies that its death almost always ensures their death as well, so Venusaur have a reason to keep it safe and will in turn fight back against others with great ferocity to keep it and their own bodies fit and intact. It is lastly noted that Venusaur are one of the few Pokemon that are known to be capable of undergoing the process of Mega Evolution when they are in possession of a Venusaurite. In this form, the bodies of these creatures grow immensely in size and bulk as their flower grows in size as well, their backs sprouting fronds and more plant life to the point where they almost resemble a mini jungle, and their powers going wild and increasing the overall defensive and offensive power to a great degree. While the plant's new size is equally countered by the thicker and stronger bodies that these creatures possess in their Mega Evolved state, it does nothing to hold back the immense increase in power it grants their form, and makes these monsters truly threatening, especially since the added bulk grants them the thick fat ability, and thus gives them extreme resistance against the extreme cold and heat that most grass types are weak against. In addition, all of their main stats, minus their HP and speed stats, receive a noticeable boost in power, with their base attack, special attack, and special defense stats undergoing a moderate boost in power, and the base defense stat undergoing a critical increase in power. As a result, they in turn obtain the highest base defense stat and base stat total out of all poison-type Pokemon, and the highest base special defense stat out of all non-legendary grass-type Pokemon. While they might not get any other serious perks as a result of this transformation, Mega Venusaur are still incredibly powerful creatures that can more than make their presence known in battle and prove to be a difficult nut to crack, especially since their powerful, well-rounded stats make them hard to handle on all fronts, and a powerful tank that even the strongest of fighters will have a hard time resisting and fighting through. Though they might not be the most free of souls with a parasitic plant on their backs at all times, the members of the Bulbasaur family are great Pokemon to work with and definitely fit the bill for being perfect choices for starter Pokemon for beginning trainers to work with, even if their gender ratio is skewed 8-to-1 in favor of males. They might have an increasingly hard time moving around nimbly as they grow and develop, but the sheer power they can get in return nonetheless makes them fearsome foes to have to face in any normal confrontation. Just do yourself a favor and make sure that the plant gets equal treatment as the Pokemon it's attached to when taking care of them. The plant might not be able to make its presence known on its own, but if you don't give the duo the respect they deserve together, you might find out the hard way just how much they don't appreciate it. Though if it's a Venusaur, getting slapped with a Vine Whip might seem like child's play compared to being burnt to a crisp by a fully powered solar beam strike. Thank you all for watching this video. It is always an honor to be able to speak with you all on the subject of Pokemon in a way that brings me great joy and happiness in my work. If you would like to keep tabs on past and future work, click that subscribe button, check out my work on DeviantArt, and don't be shy about following me on Twitter, where you can find pertinent announcements on upcoming work before it is officially posted. Links to both can be found in the video description. If you would like to support my work and help Miguel and I continue to produce more content for you and improve upon our presentation, please visit us at my Patreon page, which you can also find a link to in the video description. With that, I thank you for watching and I wish you well.